Mom, look at that guy. He's wearing fake medals. What a loser! 9-year-old Chloe Patterson pointed rudely at a man in a wheelchair along the Veterans Day parade route. He was maybe in his early 30s, wearing his dress uniform despite missing both legs below the knee. His chest displayed several ribbons and medals, and he sat with quiet dignity as the parade passed by. Mrs. Patterson glanced over briefly. Chloe, don't point. It's rude. But Mom, he's obviously faking. He probably bought those medals online or something. Real heroes don't end up in wheelchairs. Several people nearby turned to stare at Chloe, their expressions ranging from shock to disgust. An older woman in a VFW jacket looked like she wanted to say something but was too appalled to find words. The veteran in the wheelchair heard every word. His name was Captain James Morrison, and those medals weren't bought online. The Silver Star was for extraordinary gallantry in Afghanistan. The Purple Heart represented the IED that had taken his legs and killed 2 of his closest friends. The Bronze Star with Valor device was for pulling 3 wounded soldiers to safety while under heavy fire, even after sustaining his own injuries. He'd heard comments like Chloe's before. Ignorance about disability, assumptions about valor, the casual cruelty of people who'd never seen combat. Usually he let it slide. But today, on Veterans Day, surrounded by brothers and sisters who'd sacrificed everything, it cut deeper than usual. Chloe wasn't finished. She walked closer to the veteran, her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. If you were a real soldier, you wouldn't be in a wheelchair. Real soldiers are strong and healthy. Captain Morrison finally looked at her, his expression carefully neutral. I lost my legs serving my country in Afghanistan, young lady. These medals are very real. Sure they are. I bet you're just looking for attention. My dad says people in wheelchairs always want special treatment. Mrs. Patterson finally put down her phone. Chloe, that's incredibly rude. Apologize right now. Why? He's the one being dishonest. Look at all those medals. Nobody has that many medals unless they're lying. A man standing a few feet away, wearing civilian clothes and a baseball cap, had been watching the exchange with increasing intensity. He was in his 60s, with steel gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. He'd been trying to enjoy the parade peacefully, but Chloe's continued harassment had finally pushed him past his limit. Excuse me, young lady. Do you know what a Silver Star is? Chloe turned to him, annoyed at the interruption. No, and I don't care. It's probably fake anyway. It's awarded for gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. It's the 3rd highest military decoration. Only the Medal of Honor and the Distinguished Service Cross rank higher. So? Anyone can look that up on Google. The man's jaw tightened. And, do you see that Purple Heart? The purple one? Yeah, so? That means he was wounded in combat. That means he bled for his country. That means he sacrificed his body so that people like you could stand here safely, mocking his service. Chloe rolled her eyes. Whatever. You're probably friends with him or something. You're both just looking for attention. The man pulled out his wallet and showed her a military ID. I'm General Robert Hastings, United States Army, 4 stars. And that man? You're mocking as one of the bravest soldiers I've ever had the honor of commanding. The color drained from Chloe's face. Around them, people started pulling out their phones, recording what was quickly becoming a significant confrontation. Mrs. Patterson stepped forward, her face pale. General, I am so sorry. She didn't mean— Yes, she did. General Hastings interrupted. She absolutely meant it. She saw a disabled veteran and decided he was weak, dishonest, unworthy of respect. She saw his medals and assumed they were fake, and she said all of this loudly, publicly, on Veterans Day, in front of the very people who served beside him. He turned back to Chloe. Captain Morrison lost his legs on March 15, 2019. I was the one who presented him with that Silver Star. I was there when they medevaced him out of the combat zone. I visited him during his recovery at Walter Reed, and I personally recommended him for every single medal you see on his chest. Chloe started crying, finally, understanding the magnitude of her mistake. I didn't know. You didn't bother to know. You saw a disability and made assumptions. You saw achievements and assumed they must be false. Tell me, what have you done with your 9 years that gives you the right to judge this man's service? Captain Morrison spoke up quietly. General, it's all right. She's just a kid. A kid who needs to learn that service means sacrifice. That strength comes in many forms. That heroes are often the ones left, carrying the scars. He addressed the growing crowd. This man, Captain James Morrison, led his platoon through some of the most dangerous territory in Afghanistan. He saved lives. He completed missions that others said were impossible. And when an IED took his legs, he spent the next 3 years learning to walk again on prosthetics, while also earning his master's degree and volunteering with wounded veterans. He looked back at Chloe. You called him weak. You called him a faker. You said real. Heroes don't end up in wheelchairs. Let me tell you something about real heroes. Real heroes are the ones who keep serving even after the battle costs them everything. Real heroes are the ones who face every day in pain, but still show up for others. Real heroes are the ones who sacrifice their bodies so people like you can live in freedom. The parade had slowed, some of the marching veterans stopping to watch. Several of them knew Captain Morrison. They'd served with him, or heard his story, or simply recognized a brother in arms being defended. Mrs. Patterson was crying now too. General Hastings, please. What can we do to make this right? The general considered for a moment. Captain Morrison, what do you think? What should this young lady learn from this experience? Captain Morrison wheeled closer to Chloe, who couldn't meet his eyes. Look at me, please. Chloe forced herself to look up. I'm not angry with you. I'm disappointed, because you're young enough that you could have learned differently. You could have been taught to respect service, to honor sacrifice, to see beyond physical limitations. I'm sorry, Chloe whispered. I'm really, really sorry. I believe you're sorry you got caught. The question is whether you're sorry for what you said and why you said it. General Hastings knelt down to Chloe's level. Here's what's going to happen. You and your mother are going to spend the day at the VA hospital. You're going to meet veterans who've sacrificed everything. You're going to learn their stories, and you're going to understand what service really means. We'll do it, Mrs. Patterson said immediately. Today. Right now if you want. Not today. Today is for honoring veterans, not educating ignorant children. But tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Walter Reed Medical Center. Captain Morrison will meet you there. Chloe's eyes widened. He will? Captain Morrison nodded. I volunteer there every week. Teaching people about what veterans go through is part of my mission now, even when those people start out being cruel to me. Over the next several hours, as the story spread on social media, Chloe became infamous. The video of General Hastings defending Captain Morrison went viral. Comments poured in, most of them harsh toward Chloe and her mother. Some called for consequences beyond what the general had mandated. Others saw it as a teaching moment. That night, Chloe couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Captain Morrison's face, the pain he'd tried to hide when she'd called him a faker. She thought about the medals she'd dismissed as fake, each one representing moments of incredible courage. She thought about how wrong she'd been about everything. The next morning, Chloe and her mother arrived at Walter Reed at 8:45 a.m. They were early, both nervous. Captain Morrison arrived at exactly 9:00 a.m., wheeling himself through the entrance with practiced ease. Ready to learn? He asked Chloe. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Over the next 8 hours, Captain Morrison introduced Chloe to dozens of veterans. A young woman who'd lost an arm to shrapnel but now competed in adaptive sports. A man in his 50s dealing with PTSD, who couldn't hold a job but volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline. A former Marine who'd lost both his legs and an arm, but was learning to paint with his mouth, creating art that sold for thousands of dollars. Each one had a story. Each one had sacrificed. Each one was living proof that disability didn't mean weakness. This is Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, Captain Morrison said, introducing Chloe to a woman in her 30s. She lost her hearing in a rocket attack. Tell Chloe what you do now. Maria smiled, signing as she spoke. I teach American Sign Language to military families. I help bridge the gap between the hearing and deaf communities. My injury didn't end my service. It redirected it. They met veterans working as counselors, teachers, advocates, artists. They met people who'd turned their trauma into purpose, their pain into power. By lunchtime, Chloe was emotionally exhausted. Captain Morrison took her to the hospital cafeteria, where several other veterans sat together, laughing and sharing stories. See those men? He pointed to a group of 4 veterans, all with visible injuries. 2 Purple Hearts, 1 Bronze Star, 1 Silver Star among them. They meet here every week. They support each other. They're brothers in ways people who haven't served can't fully understand. I called you weak, Chloe said quietly. But you're the strongest people I've ever met. Strength isn't about having perfect bodies. It's about having unbreakable spirits. Every person you've met today could have given up, could have let their injuries define them in negative ways. Instead, they chose to keep serving, keep growing, Keep fighting. That afternoon, General Hastings arrived at Walter Reed to check on Chloe's progress. He found her in the physical therapy wing, watching a double amputee learn to walk on new prosthetics. "Learning anything?" he asked. "I learned that I was stupid and mean, and that I had no idea what real courage looked like. Those are important lessons. The question is what you do with them." Chloe turned to face him. "I want to help. I want to do something to make up for what I said." "You can't make up for it, but you can grow from it. You can become someone who honors service instead of mocking." Over the next year, Chloe became a regular volunteer at Walter Reed. She started a program at her school to collect care packages for wounded veterans. She organized Veterans Day events that actually honored veterans instead of just being a day-off school. She learned the stories of sacrifice and shared them with anyone who would listen. The viral video of her mockery never disappeared, but it was eventually balanced by videos of her volunteering, of her giving presentations about wounded warriors, of her growing into someone who understood the cost of freedom. Captain Morrison became her mentor and friend. He taught her about resilience, about service, about finding purpose in pain. And through their unlikely friendship, both of them healed in different ways. 2 years after the parade incident, Chloe was invited to speak at a Veterans Day ceremony. She stood in front of hundreds of people, including Captain Morrison and General Hastings, and told her story. "2 years ago, I was the worst kind of person. I saw a hero and called him a faker. I saw sacrifice and called it weakness. I saw courage and called it dishonest. I was everything wrong with how we sometimes treat our veterans." She paused, emotion thick in her throat. Captain Morrison could have hated me. General Hastings could have just humiliated me and moved on. Instead, they taught me. They showed me what real strength looks like. They gave me the chance to become better than I was. She looked directly at Captain Morrison. "You told me that day that real heroes are the ones who keep serving even after the battle costs them everything. You were talking about yourself and all the veterans who sacrifice so much. But you taught me that heroism isn't just on the battlefield. It's also in the choice to educate instead of condemn, to teach instead of punish, to believe people can change." The audience stood and applauded. Captain Morrison wheeled forward to join Chloe on stage, and they embraced while the crowd cheered. Later, at the reception, General Hastings approached them both. "I'm proud of you, Chloe. You took a terrible moment and turned it into a lifetime of service." "I learned from the best," she said, gesturing to Captain Morrison. "We both did," the captain added. "Chloe taught me that even people who start out cruel can become kind, that even the worst moments can lead to the best outcomes, that forgiveness and education are more powerful than anger and punishment." Chloe smiled. "I still can't believe you forgave me. After what I said, I forgave you because that's what we do. We fight so that people can have second chances. We sacrifice so that kids like you can grow up to be better than we were. That's the whole point of service." Years later, Chloe enlisted in the Army. Captain Morrison attended her graduation from basic training, and General Hastings wrote one of her letters of recommendation. She served honorably, driven by the lessons she'd learned from the veterans she'd once mocked. And when she eventually left the military and started working with veteran advocacy groups, she told her story often. The story of a bratty child who'd insulted a hero and learned what real strength looked like. The story of a disabled veteran who chose grace over anger. The story of a general who believed in teaching over punishing. It became a powerful reminder that our worst moments don't have to define us, that people can change, that forgiveness and education can transform cruelty into compassion. And every Veterans Day, Chloe stood beside Captain Morrison at parades, not as the child who'd mocked him, but as someone who'd learned to honor all those who serve.